This is an opening remark presented by the Queenie Journal of the founder and executive director of Every Woman Health Center, an NGO, and also the Nigeria's Convention on Biological Diversity country representative, in a virtual presentation of Every Woman Health Center side event, Track 2, during the Africa Climate Week event on September 26, 2021. I wish to start by formally expressing my sincere gratitude and of my team to the organizers of the 2021 Africa Climate Week event for the opportunity given to everyone to participate in the virtual thematic sessions, which take the pulse of climate action in the region, explore climate challenges and opportunities, and showcase ambitious solutions. It's an opportunity for regional stakeholders to have their voices heard and contribute to the COP 2026 in Glasgow, November 2021. I sincerely thank the organizers for their great efforts in advancing a significant initiative to build forward so as to open opportunities to address social inequalities and invest in economic development that is good for humanity and nature. It is a common knowledge that there is insufficient awareness in many countries and climes about the importance of biodiversity to life and humanity. Biodiversity is often perceived as a resource to be extracted and exploited through various unsustainable manners. In many ways and actions, many degrade this gift of nature to humanity and breach many planetary boundaries, leading to loss of biodiversity and ecosystem degradation at unprecedented rates. Africa is one of the most vulnerable continents to climate change and variability, with negative impacts on ecosystems and human health, including food and water security. Unfortunately, while changes to the climate may be irreversible with time, there is no going back once species become extinct. This puts nature's vital contribution to humanity in jeopardy and endangers economies, food security, cultural diversity, and livelihoods. All this constitutes major threats to peace and security. It is heartening to know that new trends are emerging. The importance of biodiversity resources is gradually being recognized and appreciated in many nations of the world, especially in Africa, where more emphasis has been placed in the past on infrastructural, economic, and social development, with minimal attention on the conservation of natural resources. It must be emphasized that global conservation of biodiversity will not be achieved without the sustainable management of areas in which people and nature interact. This is very important because by conserving our biodiversity and ecosystems, we are returning the capacity of the planet to sustain our prosperity. Now as never before, the global target is to reduce biodiversity loss significantly while maintaining various types of ecosystems, species, and gene pools, as well as to sustainably protect all components of biodiversity. Safeguarding biodiversity on Earth has become very critical in overcoming major global challenges, which has provoked the urgent need to promote aggressive advocacy for the global need to present climate actions as key in sustainable ecosystem and livelihood. Every Woman Hope Center is proud to be associated and involved in this ongoing aggressive advocacy global activity. Every Woman Hope Center is a Nigerian registered non-governmental organization and the Biosafety organization with strength in advocacy for biodiversity sustainability. Every Woman Hope Center made the first biosafety commitment on the action agenda, promoting the implementation of the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety to the Convention on Biological Diversity to ensure safe handling, transfer, and use of living modified organisms. To help in raising awareness on the urgent need to halt the loss of biodiversity and restore healthy ecosystems. The Action Agenda was launched in November 2018 by the governments of Egypt and China in collaboration with the Secretariat of the Convention on Biological Diversity to serve as a global mechanism to inspire, connect, and mobilize actions for biodiversity, including Biosafety, in support of the post-2020 Global Biodiversity Framework and the implementation plan of the Catalina Protocol on Biosafety. Environment Hope Center pledged to mobilize strategic plans and actions for public awareness of biosafety and biodiversity issues and to facilitate awareness-raising activities. The EWHC is promoting commitment in Africa on the Sharm el-Sheikh to Common Action Agenda for Nature and People towards reversing biodiversity loss and promoting positive gains to 2030, as also demonstrated in the Africa Climate Week 2021 event. A major significant factor in Everyone Hope Center's action in the commitment is that by 2025 at the latest, all stakeholders, including students and educators in Africa especially, are aware of the values of biodiversity to manage residual impact of climate change and ecosystem-based solutions to enhance adaptation and resilience building. In our efforts towards collaborating actions in the Africa region, EWHC is seizing transformative opportunities to integrate approaches for climate resilient development to reinforce climate resilience through integrated climate solutions. This will further enhance resilient recovery from COVID-19 and manage climate change risks comprehensively in key systems as well as growing back greener Africa. In our commitment and efforts to advance collaborative action in the Africa region, EWSC is communicating positive actions to address climate change towards reducing the worst impact of climate change across Africa. In this regard, during her December 8, 2020 webinar with the theme Motivating Strategic Plans and Actions for Public Awareness on Biosafety and Biodiversity to Enhance Partnership in Nature, EWSC collaborated with representatives from 4 African countries, which include Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Nigeria, and South Africa, as well as the Secretariat of the Convention on Biological Diversity. Gambia also indicated interest but could not make it to the webinar. Details of the outcome of the webinar, which serve as a one-stop shop repository, is available at this site. Up to this moment, EWSC has continued to facilitate the exchange of information and sharing of experiences and lessons learned to sustain actions to reinforce climate resilience through integrated climate solutions across Africa. Fortunately, the Africa Climate Week 2021 has offered additional opportunity to EWSC to offer a holistic and integrated approach to climate change and demonstrate the interlinkages and interdependencies between sustainable development and climate change to make informed policy choices towards low carbon and climate resilient sustainable development. EWSC shall continue to actively fight the global health emergency, and we cannot underestimate the ongoing impact of climate change. EWSC is committed to the actualization of the ultimate objective of all agreements under the UNFCCC to stabilize greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere at a level that will prevent dangerous human interference with the climate system in a time frame which allows ecosystems to adapt naturally and enable sustainable development. EWSC identifies this as one of our targets and aims towards achieving the agreements. This is most essential at this juncture as the climate change is a cross-cutting development issues that affects every aspect of sustainable development and the entire 2030 agenda. The Paris Agreement on Climate Change with the 2030 Agenda, together with the Sustainable Development Goals, forms a very comprehensive blueprint for eliminating extreme poverty, reducing inequality, and protecting the planet. Along with our Addis Ababa Action Agenda and the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction, these documents constitute an integral plan of action for people, planet, and prosperity, which requires all countries and stakeholders to act together. Notably, sustainable development and climate action are deeply interconnected and interdependent, that achieving zero hunger is not possible without protecting food systems from the negative impact of climate change. Again, cities and communities cannot be sustainable without adequate protection from extreme weather events, and ensuring children's health is not possible without addressing air pollution and the increase in climate change driven vector-borne diseases. It's also notable that economic development cannot be sustainable without reversing over reliance on carbon intensive energy resources. Remarkably, EWHC's participation in the May 4th to June 13th, 2021 meeting of the subsidiary body on scientific, technical, and technological advice, Chapter 24, and the third meeting of the subsidiary body on implementation, SBI, facilitated effective communication to address these issues and capable of supporting relevant strategies in delivering climate actions, particularly in Africa. In her statement, it focused on the CBD/CFBI/3/30 EWS stated thoughts. There is urgent need to develop and establish biodiversity systems and institutions to promote and coordinate biodiversity actions required to mainstream and integrate biodiversity in all relevant economic sectors and national policies. This approach should involve multiple transformative transitions and integrate a complex set of objectives for newly identified knowledge gaps, as well as project the need to build evidence and design trajectories. EWSC further stated that there is urgent need to mobilize strategic plans and actions to galvanize urgent and transformative actions by governments and all of societies and engage more non-state actors in the implementation plan of the framework. Towards a more sustainable Africa, EWSC shall encourage relevant support, partnerships, and collaborations for broader climate action and mobilization towards climate resilient development. She shall also promote ecosystem-based solutions to adaptation and managing residual impacts on climate change, as well as efforts towards biodiversity conservation. The aim is to build climate resilience in key systems such as food security, water, health, ecosystems, and nature-based solutions. EWSC shall accelerate efforts for promoting coordination and policy coherence at different governance levels, subnational and national, private sector engagement, and enhance synergies between different frameworks towards post-COVID-19 recovery alignment. The organization is committed to building inclusivity into the heart of planning processes, including responsive adaptation and implementation, with focus on women, youth, local communities, and indigenous people. It's really a privilege for every woman Hope Center to continue to further amplify climate actions and mainstream public awareness and appreciation of the diverse values of biodiversity needs within the global biodiversity framework and ensure the transformation of human behavior and choice in favor of biodiversity conservation and restoration. We are very willing to go into the provisions of the Africa Climate 2021 to take urgent actions across societies and contribute positively to integrated approaches to reinforce climate resilient development across Africa. Thank you.
Providing a non-capital intensive approach that will benefit agriculture in developing countries, providing a source of value-added genes and traits that will increase farmers' productivity and profitability. Biosafety commitment to health. Safe modern biotechnology and modern biotechnology ensured through biosafety has contributed and is still contributing in health improvement by access to sufficiency of nutritionally enhanced variety of food, which is a fundamental determinant of health, ensuring the public health of citizens through efficient risk assessment and management of processes and products of modern biotechnology and emerging modern biotechnology, providing decision support through assisting policy makers and decision makers in making decisions surrounding biosafety and biosecurity that are ethical, effective, and efficient. Simple keys on fulfilling the impulse of the African biosafety commitment to reach a wide audience involving all relevant stakeholders along the biosafety value chain, working with the media can help inform and educate different groups on biosafety and link to biodiversity, inspire people about new actions of biosafety for sustenance and biodiversity, explain poorly understood issues of biosafety regulations, all identify to communicate and what are the steps to identify to communicate, what to get across for the purpose and what is the purpose, who to engage, and what type of audience. Nigeria's experiences on communicating biosafety. The delivery of information depends on the culture and infrastructure of the country, community, target audience. Therefore, in Nigeria, the National Biosafety Management Agency uses the following means of communication. Through the website, Biosafety Clearinghouse, which is a global information portal, social media, Facebook, Twitter angle, email, and the other media, television, cable, press briefing, reports. And these are some of the appearances in the media, trying to douse the controversies surrounding modern biotechnology and seed products. This includes appearances in the television stations and other media houses. Channels and tools for communication include, other ones include communication through media interviews, workshops, field visits to confined field trials, and also one other way of also communicating is through the use of the uniform. Like the National Biosafety Management Agency has an enforcement biosafety enforcement jacket. When this is a perspective and interests, understand their risk perceptions and concerns, which risks subculture do they belong to. Recognize the different ways in which stakeholders consume technical data and process information, rank stakeholders' interests and identify issues, how to package information and how to deliver it, when to deliver it, when and how to gather feedback, and the 5 best communicators for specific stakeholder groups. Lesson 2, value-based biosafety messages. This includes biosafety messages, short, positive, precise, and relevant, without panic. When developing messages, the MBMA tries to specify and select the target audience carefully, know who, what channel, and when to disseminate the information. Use simple terms in their choice of words instead of technical terms that may frighten the audience or discourage and mislead the audience. Build trust by communicating with the appropriate messages. Value-based messages, emphasizing safety is the major priority. These are some media trainings and interactions. Lesson 3, capacity building. That is from the MBMA. Application of knowledge and courage in biosafety regulation. This is very, very relevant to our system. The members of the public want to know how knowledgeable you are and how you are able to take decisions with courage without being afraid, because those activists sometimes try to intimidate and try to frighten regulators. 3 members of staff to biosafety and provide platform whereby some personnel can take short biosafety courses and even get higher qualification in biosafety related courses from both national and international institutions like the International Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology, MSCU, and other institutions. Train spokespeople and communicators on issues on management, media handling, staying on messages, and overall presentation skills. Take decision makers and journalists on study tours and field visits, as well as organizing specialized target and briefings for politicians and policymakers. Equip journalists with the right skills on reporting on matters of biosafety. Organize public seminars on relevant issues and hold large conferences for awareness building. Lesson line continue. Other key elements that the MBA implements in her communication strategy include establishment of protocol for emergency communication, implementation of communication strategy within resource constraints with partners involved, maintaining neutrality by not promoting or negating biotechnology, providing neutral assessment of facts and decisions using prepared wording and templates, styled by decisions convincingly, without doubt. Conclusion. The primary focus of biosafety communication should be to improve the general understanding of the thoroughness of safety assessment for transgenic products, as well as the effectiveness of the national biosafety framework to ensure access to safe products and prevention of unsafe products. Good communication is paramount as it builds confidence in the biosafety process and helps to influence the public acceptance of approved products for an enhanced ecosystem and livelihood. Key takeaways. Address strategic plans and actions for public awareness, purposes of biosafety or biodiversity in Africa. This is about aggressive raising the issues of African biosafety system in conference of parties, shared values, the best way to build public trust, media engagement approach, the way of getting right the communication, the way of getting right communication about safety, aggressive advocacy for the global need to present biosafety as key in sustainable ecosystem and livelihood matters. Build credibility and transparency in the African biosafety system. Recommendation. set up biosafety action model that can facilitate biodiversity conservation towards a healthy ecosystem, enhance capacity to build synergy across Africa, develop activities and programs for effective implementation of action agenda for nature and man. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening.
Thank you, sir. You can agree with me that the presentation was a very, very exhaustive one, detailed and straight to the point too. Please. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for a very detailed presentation. Dr. Rufus Ebegba is as I said earlier, is the DG and Chief Executive Officer of the National Biosafety Management Agency of Nigeria. He has been in this system for a very long time, and you can agree with me that he did justice to this presentation. He started by commending the AUD NEPAD for the role they played in for the participation of the African group in Sharm el-Sheikh in 2018. At that meeting, it was the African group was really felt, their impact or their participation was really felt. Now, I think that was what led to the Every Woman Hope to get this, this program going today. In his presentation, the DG, Dr. Rufus Ebegba, hinged the commitment of African biosafety on the One Health approach that considers both agriculture, health, and environment. These three components are key to biosafety and biosafety. Now, he also outlined how Africa could be committed in biosecurity on agriculture, in health, and he itemized the areas that they play a role. And then he also mentioned the ways Africa will achieve their commitments in biosecurity, in biosafety. He also shared the experience of Nigeria in biosafety. And then he also gave us a key takeaway on the areas we have to. He also mentioned the areas that needs to be focused on in achieving or fulfilling the commitment of Africa in biosecurity in the post-2020 biodiversity agenda. You can agree with me that he really talked very much on these issues. And I will also welcome questions if you have any before we take the next presenter. Thank you. If you have any question, please indicate and you have the floor. Please, can you participants, can you hear me, please? Please ask your questions so presenter is Umba. Okay, Jacinta is the next presenter, please. Please, Jacinta, you have the floor, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Please.
Yeah, we hear you.
Can I share the screen?
Yes, but I think there's a problem somehow.
There's a problem. Okay, let me just go ahead.
Just go ahead, please.
Yeah, welcome everybody. I'm so happy to be with you. My name is Jacinta. I am the head of Department for Development Studies. I also double as a coordinator for Environment and Natural Resource Management at the Pan-African Institute for Development, West Africa, Buea, Cameroon. So my topic, the need to disseminate adequate information and knowledge on biosafety and biodiversity conservation, and implement strategies into school systems. Yeah. When we talk of biosafety and biodiversity conservation, we are talking about managing the biosphere. The biosphere is an area of the surface and the atmosphere of the earth occupied by living organisms. Biodiversity encompasses all species of plants, animals, microorganisms, as well as the communities that they form and the habitat in which they live, generally called the ecosystem. Generally, biodiversity is the variety and variability among biodiversity is the variety of variability among living organisms and the ecological complex in which they occupy. I'm having problems.
Yeah, you're able to share. You have shared your presentation is showing.
Yeah. Okay. Oh. Bioresources are gotten from biodiversity, and these resources have limits. We are exceeding these limits, thereby reducing the biodiversity. The growing number of people and the increasing level of consumption are making even greater demand on the planet's biological resources. Human activities are progressively eroding Earth's capacity to support the life system. Thus, there is the need for conservation. Human aspiration need to come in line with the realities of the Earth's productive capacity so that activities become sustainable over long periods. This is the right time for change in the relationship between people and biodiversity, that is nature and man. Because of the importance of biodiversity, we need to know its value. Biodiversity is a building block for the ecosystem and provides life supporting systems for humans. These life supporting systems are provision, regulating, cultural, and supportive services. These services definitely are determinants of our well-being as they provide us with security, especially in time of uncertainty, where most often it serves as the safety net. They also provide us with basic material for good life. As we assess the resources, we have employment which can be direct or indirect. This employment gives us income and improves on our livelihood. It also helps us to it also helps to free us from avoidable diseases. It creates good relationship, opportunities to express culture and spiritual values. Observe and study the biodiversity, aesthetic and recreational values associated with biodiversity. The natural environment, therefore, and human communities are interdependent, with biodiversity being an integral part of it. Consequently, the well-being and health of any part depends on the well-being and health of the other. Now, I want to talk about the topic itself. That was just an introduction of biodiversity and the importance of biodiversity. I was supposed to talk on the need to disseminate adequate information and knowledge. Developing and using information is essential in conservation at all levels, from the local to the global communities. The more widely information is shared, the more likely individuals, communities, and institutions become aware and will appreciate values, problems, and solutions. Consequently, effective action for biosafety and biodiversity conservation must be based on accurate and adequate information. Local communities, government agencies, and conservation organizations need information to enable them manage biological resources adequately by assessing ecological processes that have been heavily affected by man as a basis for enhancing productivity and restoring the degraded biodiversity to a more productive state. Monitoring the changes in biodiversity and its functions as the influence of humans have become pervasive. Carrying out research to determine how local people manage their resources, how changes in resource availability and land use affect their behavior. Now, with all of this, there are strategies that we need to put in place. So what are these strategies? We document the wealth of the world's species of plants and animals involving museums, zoos, botanic gardens, university, and research institutions. Develop new mechanisms for ex situ conservation as the world is facing increasing population that has led to land conversion to other uses. Inventories and research should be carried out simultaneously with field action. The two forms of activities should reinforce each other. Recommendation. Development agencies should support national efforts to establish local, sectorial, and national information management systems by providing training opportunities for taxonomists and biologists, subsidizing the publication of reports. Universities, research institutions, and non-governmental organizations need to be strengthened so that they can help government assess biological resources in their respective nations or regions. Then the other part that I have to talk on is implementation of these strategies into school systems. I wanted to take the case of Cameroon because what constitutes biology is studied at every level in the schools, from primary schools to the university. For instance, we have what they call nature study and rural science in primary school. In secondary schools, we have botany, zoology, ecology, biodiversity, and environmental studies. The issue now is, how do we conserve it? That is what I think we should institute or incorporate in the school curriculum. Therefore, biosafety and biodiversity conservation should be integrated in school curriculum and as a guiding principle, with critical thinking on conservation issues and values introduced and encouraged, which aims at developing conservation education programs to increase awareness, communicate existing and scientific information, convey new concepts in conservation strategies to meet changing conservation needs, stimulate pride in and enjoyment of a nation's biota, specifically in the area of ecotourism. Then what strategies can be used? Ministries of Education, Environment, and Tourism in collaboration with universities and research organizations should work together to offer teachers training courses, organize workshops, and develop teachers for classroom and extracurricular uses and activities. Teachers who have little experience or exposure to current concepts in conservation should have access to program and useful material. Thus, nations need to draw a unified plan for biosafety and biodiversity conservation programs. The recommendation: stakeholders should develop a comprehensive plan for improved environmental education that provides guidance and support for educators at all levels. Public education program and information campaigns should be instituted to disseminate information on biosafety and biodiversity values, the principles of sustainable economics and development, laws and legislative initiative. Open days in school on environmental education should also be encouraged. Conclusion: the development of the educational components of biosafety and biodiversity conservation strategy should not be undertaken in isolation, but as part of a broader national educational program that will integrate scientific and traditional knowledge. Let me just chip in something that I didn't say at the beginning. I had to emphasize, I had to bring in traditional knowledge because I think there is no way we can carry out conservation of biodiversity without including the traditional knowledge. These people in the area, they have been using their knowledge to preserve the biological resources that we have met, and it's just because of increase in population that is putting pressure on these resources. So the conservation of these resources must take into consideration the local people and their indigenous knowledge. This definitely means inclusiveness, as there can be no effective conservation programs without involving local communities and the integration of their indigenous or traditional knowledge on conservation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jacinta. That was a very good one. Yes. The presentation was on adequate, the need for disseminating adequate information and knowledge. She explained what biodiversity means, what it was for preserving it, and its importance and the role it plays in life. He also mentioned the for it to be included in the educational curriculum at all levels. And then she made recommendations on the strategies to adopt. And then she concluded by saying that education of biosafety and biodiversity conservation should not be taken in isolation. There's no way we can teach people about these aspects of environment without taking into consideration the local knowledge and the traditional knowledge and local communities. But they are actually the people that are in the receiving end of this. So any education that does not include them will be in an exercise in futility. So that is what Jacinta has told us this afternoon, and we thank her so much. Please, if you have any question, you should indicate and take it before we take the next paper. Okay, so now we take the presentation of Rumba. If there's no question for Jacinta, please can we move on? Is there any question from our participants? Okay, I assume that there's no question. Please, Rumba should take the next, make her presentation.
Hello.
So please, you can share your screen.
Okay. It's okay.
It's on now.
Do you hear me? Hello?
We can hear you. Hi. Hello, we can hear you, Rumba. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm Ramba Mature from Burkina Faso. I'm the National Biosafety focal point. My presentation topic is fostering biosafety community as a strategy framework tools to ensure sustainable use of biodiversity. I'll do my presentation in English, but I prefer to speak in French. Is it possible? Huh? It's possible or not?
It's not. Not.
Okay, I will try to speak in English, but I am not a good speaker.
Yes. Yes.
First time, my presentation I will do about this plant. I have one introduction after I have the institutional organization and the strategy of communication of my country, the strategy plan, and I will give you some activity about public information and sensibilization, and I will finish with one conclusion. National Biosafety of Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso is one country of West Africa. You have three organs. The first organ in national biosafety is an authority in the field of biosecurity. And you have a national biosafety community scientific. You must do the risk assessment. And the third is the national biosafety observatory. You must do the education of public. In the of ENB, of National Biosafety, you have public information and awareness and public participation in the decision-making process regarding animals and GMOs. And the third mission is to build and make available genome database for public use. Do you see my screen?
Yes, but we are just saying you. We can't see
Don't
We
see my
can't see your
screen.
screen. Yeah.
Yeah. You see my screen? Okay. When we talk about risk communication, I can say that risk communication is a part of risk analysis. It goes with risk assessment and risk management. For that, Burkina Faso built in 2050 a strategy for communication, for public information. In this strategy, you have like as vision in 2020, we'll have a good understanding of biotechnology and biosafety issues and make information choice regarding LMO and GMO. We have 3 specific targets in this strategy and some examples of sensibilization and public information. We have some groups, main target groups like opinion leaders, teachers, students, farmers, and journalists. You can inform about this strategic communication. One of the key activities about biosafety integration in the policies in Burkina Faso, you make a document to explain what can I get when you integrate biosafety in the different policy sector in Burkina Faso. You did a round table with principal decision makers in your country. The second activity is the create lockdown conditions for the public participation. When you consult public, what can I do? What kind of conditions you can put in place before to consult public? This document will be adopted the next year, and it's a very good document you can accompany, you can follow to consult public. Now we have strategy plan you can build in 2020, and this new strategy plan are a vision to be recognized as a model of excellence in biosafety, credible, respected by the Burkinabe and the international community. In this strategy, the communication objective is to inform, raise, and awareness and communicate about biosafety. You have 5 specific objectives for communicating objective and 50 priority action has been defined. The first objective specific is to strengthen the ANB communication mechanism. The second is to build better, strengthen internal biosafety information sharing. And the third is to establish consultation of framework and biotechnology and biosafety. And the last is increasing the visibility of ANB. You have some activity you did in the new strategy plan. The first is the sensibilization and information of on the other regulation agencies. The first is the National Laboratory of Public Health, and the second is the Regulator of Pharmaceutical Product. The 2 agencies is the regulation agency. You can help and to do better biosafety rules in the country. In the 5 of mosquito, GMO, man sterile. The second activity is a workshop on the biosafety risk analysis and decision making process with NEPAD audit. The top target group is the researcher and teacher in university. You can explain the process to risk assessment and the process to decision making. One of the key activities of educational of students and the people in the school, you made a campaign for the students this year and last year for 4 professional schools. The first is for agriculture, the second is for livestock and animal health, and you have water and forestry school and Institute of Science. In this campaign, you gave access of the information on biosafety and the process market and the risk assessment about GMO and LMO. And this year, you start a new campaign for students in university. We want to give some model about biosafety to help students and to develop a new capacity to build a new capacity in the biosafety field. So this year you inform students from ZRA University and another university. You have 2 universities. In conclusion, I can say that biosafety is very essential level for the protection of biodiversity, and the population must be informed about national biosafety framework and the role. For that, you can get the integration of biosafety in the other sector is only possible if some population are informed and be accept to play the role of the biosafety. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Robert.
Yeah.
Your English was not bad after all.
I hope somebody understand me.
He talked about fostering biosafety commitments as a strategy framework and tool to ensure sustainable use of biodiversity. He took us through the process in Burkina Faso, and then he mentioned some strategies on how to go about conserving biodiversity using biosafety. And he concluded by saying that biosafety plays an important role in biodiversity conservation. And I think he did justice to his paper, and his English was not bad anyway. So some people have asked us some questions here. Thank you, Rumba. Thank you so much for your presentation. So please, some people have asked some questions, and I would like us to look at those questions before we continue. Christabel asked, I want to find out some of the traditional methods that is being used to conserve biodiversity. And this question is to everyone present. Anyone that has an answer to this should give it to us.
How do I talk?
Who is attempting it? Please?
I attempt.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. If we talk of the conservation of biodiversity traditionally, sacred grove is one of the ways of conserving biodiversity. I don't know, in my area, there are areas where people don't really go to. In that's a traditional way of conserving biodiversity. And we have a forest in my area where women don't go into the forest. If women don't go into the forest, it means that the pressure on the resources is being reduced. So in that way, they help to conserve biodiversity. And at times, there are some animals that people believe they are totems. They at some period, and at some period, they even tell you, please, like the breeding period for fish, they will tell you, please don't do fishing. Those are the traditional ways that I'm sorry, let me use the word of Robert Chambers. I don't want to use local people. Robert Chambers says the insiders. Those are the ways that the insiders use their knowledge in conserving the resources. There are so many ways of conserving our resources traditionally.
I agree with you, because this is very, very important. It is important because so many people don't know that this is a way of conserving biodiversity. And it's only the people that dwell in that community and that area that will tell you, these are the things we do and these are the things we don't do. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
There's another question. This one is from Yurka Nielsen. Okay, no, that's okay. No question there. Okay. I think the questions are finished. There's no other question. Okay, I don't think there's any other question. I cannot. If anyone has any question, please, you can ask your questions now so that people can take the question. You can answer them.
I want to talk. What do I say?
So if there's no
Can
question,
I react to a question that was directed to me?
Okay, please. Yes, I couldn't find the question. Okay.
I sent it to you. Maybe my pronunciation of the name, might not be exact. From
No, it's okay.
Zezuma asked, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. I can hear you, please. Go ahead.
Zezuma asked if weeds can be considered as biodiversity. Yes, sure. That's why I started by saying biodiversity encompasses all species of plants, and weeds are plants. Then he or she said, if it is biodiversity, how can we manage their conservation in the context of land cropping? I want to make some clarification. When we are carrying out agriculture, if we plant a particular type of plant, any plant that is growing there, which is not the plant that we have planted, is called weed. So in this context, I don't know what she meant or he or she meant by weed. Whatever the case, if it is difficult to conserve it in the farm because of the activities that we carry, we can remove it sustainably and take it to a botanic garden for conservation. That's what they call ex situ conservation. If that is because of the multiple land use, we are so many species have been eroded. But if there is any species of value that gives us that we can benefit from any of the services, and we think that keeping it there is going to be a problem, we can sustainably remove it and take it to botanic gardens for conservation. That's ex situ conservation. I finished.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That was a very insightful answer to that question. If there's no other question, we can take the next presentation. The next one is by Edel Queen. Thank you. You have the floor now, please.
Hello. Good afternoon, everybody from Nigeria. It's good. It's good to have you all in this meeting today. I am going to deal with the significance of public awareness on biosafety and the urgent need to halt the loss of biodiversity and restore healthy ecosystems. Can you move it? Can you move it? It's not bold enough. It's still not bold enough. Okay. Well, the Sharm el-Sheikh Tokumen Action Agenda for Nature and Man aims to promote positive gains to 2030. As an engagement platform, the Action Agenda Yes. It's fluctuating. Okay. Introduction. The Sharm el-Sheikh Tocumen Action Agenda for Nature and Man aims to promote positive gains to 2030. As an engagement platform, the action agenda will help to raise awareness on the urgent need to halt the loss of biodiversity and restore healthy ecosystems. This would be harnessed through a whole of society approach for the transformative changes needed to achieve the 2050 vision of living in harmony with nature. This will be highlighted to set the stage for an ambitious global biodiversity framework. It also aims to promote and showcase a groundswell of commitment from non-state actors to safeguard and reverse biodiversity loss, provide momentum towards the post-2020 global biodiversity framework, to be adopted in 2021 at COP15 in Kunming, China, and contribute towards the implementation. It's not all. From the item.
Please, we have a little hitch here. Please hold on for us. Be patient.
After this, the next. Then the next. Every Woman Hope Center will mainly mobilize strategic plans and actions for public awareness purposes on biosafety and or biodiversity, as well as facilitate awareness-raising activities to disseminate adequate information on implementation strategies. Every Woman Hope Center made a commitment to mobilize these strategic plans. And so one of the commitments also entails to foster communication that will ensure that by 2025, people are aware of the meaning and value of biosafety and biodiversity, as well as steps they can take to use it sustainably. Public awareness. Public awareness is the public's level of appreciation of an issue and involves a widespread understanding and acknowledgement of the issues on a societal level. It is a relevant tool to increase enthusiasm and support, stimulate self-mobilization and action, and mobilize local knowledge and resources. Raising public awareness amongst various stakeholders is very significant to facilitate and enhance informed policies and choice. Biosafety issues. Biosafety is the safety of human and environment from unintentional release of pathogenic microorganisms and biohazards. The Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety to the Convention on Biological Diversity seeks to protect biological diversity from the potential risks posed by genetically modified organisms resulting from modern biotechnology. This has been supplemented by the Nagoya Kuala Lumpur Supplementary Protocol on Liability and Redress to contribute to the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity by providing international rules and procedures in the field of liability and redress for damage resulting from the transboundary movement of LMOs. Biodiversity issues. Biodiversity is the variety of life on Earth. Biodiversity is often referred to as the web of life, as it encompasses all species, the interaction among themselves, together with their habitat and the ecosystem. Biodiversity is very essential for the ecosystem's health, sustainable food production, and resilient livelihood. It's one of the pillars of sustainable development. All life on Earth depends on biodiversity, clean air, and water, and stable. In the living fabric of our planet and underpins human well-being, and in the future, for the present and the future. Biodiversity degradation. Unfortunately, we are degrading this nature's gift to humanity, as well as breaching many planetary boundaries through our own actions. The biodiversity is being lost at an unprecedented rate in the last decades. The main drivers of biodiversity loss are climate change, overexploitation of natural resources, pollution, and urbanization. According to the reports released in 2018 by Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, IPBES. The impact of the growing global population basically is affecting these very natural resources on which human life is based. Scientists have warned that the planetary boundaries that enabled all civilizations to form and prosper over the last 11,000 years are being exceeded. Nearly a third of forest cover has been cleared worldwide, and atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide now exceeds 4 parts per million, with greenhouse gases also acidifying the ocean, changing their chemistry faster than in perhaps 300 million years. Biodiversity degradation continued. The alarming pace of biodiversity loss, which implies the reduction and disappearance of species and genetic diversity, and the degradation of the ecosystem, threatens devastating consequences for mankind if it goes unchecked. The degradation of habitats, pollution, and unstable use of biological diversity in recent decades has led to its rapid decline and threatens nature and people alike. Unfortunately, these changes to the climate may be reversible with time. There is no going back once species become extinct. This puts nature's vital contribution to humanity to jeopardy, thus endangering economies, food security, cultural diversity, and livelihoods, and constitutes a major threat to people and security. Therefore, safeguarding biodiversity on Earth is critical in overcoming major global challenges. The task. Maintaining the biodiversity is one of the main environmental challenges our planet has to face in the beginning of the 21st century. Now, as never before, there is an unequivocal recognition of the ecosystem services in contributing to the well-being of the planet and the need to reconnect communities with nature for an inspiring future. At COP14 in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, with the theme, Investing in Biodiversity for people and planet and the planet. The president of the Arab Republic of Egypt, Fattah el-Sisi, in the welcome address stated that we could remind ourselves of our shared responsibility to work collectively, constructively, and effectively for the common good of our planet and welfare of its people. We owe this: act now and act effectively. Challenges and gaps. The major challenge still remains that the 2020 deadline for achieving most of the Aichi biodiversity targets and the strategic plan that was adopted in 2010 is almost ended. Yet, a great deal will still have to be done, as despite real progress made, we are still falling short. In her statement at the opening of the high-level segment of the 14th meeting of the Conference of Parties, Ms. Christina Palmer, the former executive secretary of the Convention on Biological Diversity, stated that we need to accelerate the achievement of these targets. To achieve these actions, we are required to mainstream and integrate biodiversity in all relevant economic sectors, as well as in cross-cutting national policies, such as development plans and processes, budgets, and economic policies. Actions can and must also be taken, not just by government, but by organizations and all levels of the society, including business and individuals, as producers and consumers. Through our choices and behaviors as individuals and as actors in larger systems, we can all make a critical difference in safeguarding all life on the planet. And we then must utilize that accelerated focus on Aichi targets to design a post-2020 global biodiversity framework in a transformative way. Our 2050 vision is simple but profound: living in harmony with nature. We must realize this vision through an actionable and achievable framework. Conservation and sustainable development cannot just be something we discuss. They must be seen and felt in everyday life of all our citizens. We must demonstrate that nature is not just something set aside. Nature is life. Nature is you. Nature is here. Nature is all of us. There is still some gaps in the regulatory framework, especially for species which are invasive without being considered harmful under international agreements. For instance, many national targets stated that by 2020, basic taxonomic information is packaged in a user-friendly format and widely disseminated, including use of school systems. Yet, the basic knowledge of taxonomy in the country is not extensive, and in the global community, though, it's not extensive, and there exists poor data infrastructure on invasive alien species, the IAS, as well as lack of guidance on how to address specific pathways of introduction of these species and insufficient capacity to deal with ecosystems degradation. These species can be difficult to control due to the increasing number of introduction pathways and there are gaps in the regulatory framework, especially for species which are invasive without being considered harmful under international agreements. They have adverse impacts upon biodiversity, including decline or elimination of native species through competition, predation, or transmission of pathogens and disruption to local ecosystems and ecosystem functions. Organisms transported to new environments become invasive. The negative impact can be extensive, and over time, these additions become substantial. Incidentally, the introduction of species is usually vectored by human transportation and trade. In the new habitat of a species, if the new habitat of a species is similar enough to its native range, it may survive and reproduce. Significance of public awareness. There's an urgent need to further amplify and mainstream public awareness and appreciation of the diverse values of biodiversity needs within the global framework. It aims to facilitate and ensure the transmission of human behaviors and choice in favor of biodiversity conservation and restoration for its sustainable use. Lack of awareness on the importance of biodiversity is common, with the biodiversity often perceived as a resource to be extracted and exploited through various unsustainable manners, while habitats are being degraded. There is an urgent need to entrench expanded knowledge on biosafety for biodiversity and environmental sustainability, as well as innovations in conservation, and promote and coordinate biodiversity research. Effective communication for adequate knowledge on biodiversity should be properly addressed to significantly achieve global commitments and effective implementation. Attempts to raise awareness of the concept of biodiversity and communicate related issues would largely benefit from additional support, such as enhancing public awareness and education on biosafety and biodiversity issues among the various stakeholders. Recommendations. There should be a significant movement towards environmental literacy. The role of gender and the youth in awareness building should not be neglected. There is a drop deal with potential risks. There could be valuable information sets from which development messages can be crafted and conveyed to targeted stakeholders. Such information also could potentially enable deeper understanding of the values of biodiversity and inspire correct actions by various stakeholders and proven good practices. It should make clear, however, on overarching communication strategy based on an understanding of knowledge, attitude, and practice, KAP, of targeted stakeholders. This strategy could provide the roadmap and focus limited to resources usually available for public awareness. Conclusions. Although protecting pristine areas and other high conservation value areas considered important is vital. Global conservation of biodiversity will not be achieved without the sustainable management of areas in which people and nature interact. We cannot rest as the threat to biodiversity continues. We have made significant steps in combating biodiversity loss. Let us keep moving forward to seize the moment. This is Ati Roberto, the former Executive Director, Asian Center for Biodiversity. Therefore, we need to develop more activities and programs that will foster a more effective communication and awareness on the implementation of the action agenda for nature and man. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Del Queen, the host of this webinar, and the Chief Executive Officer of Every Woman Group. Your presentation is very, very important to us, and you discuss in detail what your subject is all about. The presentation was on the significance of public awareness on biosafety and the urgent need to reduce the loss of the biodiversity to restore healthy ecosystem. She took us through the commitment of the center in fostering public awareness. She talked about public awareness, what it entails, and the processes. She talked about biodiversity, biosafety issues, and then biodiversity issues. Then she took us through the degradation of biodiversity and mentioned the major drivers of biodiversity loss. Then she explained the task that must be done, that we must take to restore and maintain sustainable use of biodiversity. And then she talked about the challenges, mentioning that the 2020 Aichi biodiversity targets set in 2010 are yet to be achieved, even as the year is ending. Then she mentioned that the collective action of everyone is needed to safeguard life and conserve biodiversity. She also emphasized the urgent need for public awareness. She made recommendations on the way forward. And then she concluded by saying that we cannot rest as the threat to biodiversity continues. This is very important and we must take it very seriously. So thank you again, Del Queen. Please, if there's any question. Okay, please, if any participant has any question, please indicate so that we can move on. Okay, so please, if you want to, you can just you can indicate by typing in your question on the chat so that we can look at it and then direct it to the person that can answer it. So, but if we don't have any question now, while we think about it, okay, so now I invite Reka for her presentation, please. Reka, you have, oh, okay, it's a book launch, book presentation. Please, you can make your presentation now, please, Reka. Book launch, please, go ahead, you have the.
Thank you, thank you. Do you hear me? You hear me? I don't hear anybody. You can hear? Okay. I'll try to
Yes, we
share
can hear
my.
you.
Okay. Yes. Now I hear. Now I hear. Do you? I shared my screen, but I'm not sure if it's. Do you see the screen? Yes. Do you see my screen?
Not yet.
No, not yet.
Uh, Screen sharing. I tried to share my screen. Uh, now I don't hear anybody again. But what I can do is that I can share the link of what I wanted to launch and then tell you a little bit about it. But yes, I don't hear anyone right now for some reason.
But we can hear you. We can hear you.
Go ahead, we can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yeah,
Okay.
sure.
Yeah, there's an echo a little bit. Well, I will share. Actually, it's more of a two things. Well, two things is that we have been working for many years trying to collect videos and best practices on trying to develop some sort of capacity building material for parties and for other stakeholders on biosafety education. And so this is taking a little bit time because, yeah, constraints, and so on. I will just share because it is only a soft link, a soft launch right now, but I still wanted to share it because we are talking so much about biosafety education, and we know that we have many resources on biosafety awareness, but many of our parties from the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety has for many years asked us for more resources on biosafety education. So I'm sharing this YouTube. It's a resource material. We will launch it. Yeah, we will launch it in our. We have an e-learning platform, and we are still under the development of trying to make it really good. I will also share that later. But other new things, because we are talking today a lot about strategies, and I'm very thankful for all the speakers. Very interesting presentations for sure. I think they're very informative, and this is exactly what many of our parties very much are looking for: best practices from different countries and so on. I will share also our parties have many times asked us for a communication plan template. It will help their work also. So I'm going to share it instead here in a link to everybody on the chat because I just updated it also with new messages, biosafety messages, and also towards more about the action agenda, because we are moving on in this manner. We know that the global biodiversity framework has a biosafety target, and there's an implementation plan for the Cartagena Protocol biosafety. But we know from the past then that governments need support, and for sure non-state actors can help in this way. So we are trying to bring out the action agenda way more. And so here's a link on and there's many resources there you're welcome to use. But especially, of course, now if you're looking for ready-made templates for a national communication plan, they can be used in government, but also for non-state actors. It gives you a guidance. You can it's a Word document, so you can take it, you can change it as you want, as you feel is, it's just a guidance document basically. So we update it from time to time, and of course when we have the COP10 coming up, and the implementation plan has not been adopted yet. As you know, the COP was postponed. But when it is adopted, of course, we will change the communication plan template again to reflect even more the actual the actual decisions that has been taken. But we still recommend that countries start thinking about commitments, start thinking about items that are in the implementation plan for the Cartagena Protocol biosafety, or of course, coming target of biosafety. The global biodiversity framework has now a biosafety target, which is yeah, which is it is also very unique because in the past we had a strategic plan for the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety only, separated from the strategic plan for biodiversity. We don't want to separate. We now are trying to merge together, so countries work together, of course, within governments, that ministries can work together much more on biosafety and biodiversity. So this is very important that this target also is possibly, that is adopted also there. So, but we are hoping for that. Just the last thing, because I don't want to take too much time. My colleague, I guess, had a presentation, and you're welcome to have any questions about the Cartagena Protocol by Safety or the action agenda. So, I mean, as it is today, we actually have 2 biosafety commitments. If I'm proud, Belarus has also submitted now a commitment. So we're very proud. We welcome people to really take this in consideration, because we are trying to profile not only non-state actors on our website, but through meetings, so on. So biosafety commitments are very important. I'm sharing the action agenda link here too. And let me see if there's anything else that, of course, I'm passionate about biosafety. Anything else I can share with you? The implementation plan, as you know, is just like still under negotiation, but you can find it here because it will be discussed during the subsidiary body of implementation, the 3rd one coming up. So you can have a look at the components that are public awareness here, and I think that is covered most of what my areas were. Any questions, any sort of needs for capacity building, we can forward that also to UNEP, our colleagues, that work in UNEP on capacity building too. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Okay, if there's no question, I just want to find out. The links, and we'll share it to everyone so that we can access it now. Thank you so much. Oh, good. I don't know what's happening. So, can you hear me? Okay. Okay. Jacinta, do you have any question or comment?
No. I've seen the link.
Okay.
The link, yes.
Please, I don't know if we have any representative of the Minister for Agriculture, Nigeria, because it's his presentation we're waiting for now. I don't think there's anyone here. The first Honorable Minister for Agriculture, Nigeria, any representative making a presentation for him? Please, can you hear me?
Yes, yeah, we can hear you.
Can you hear me, please? Participants, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you.
It's on. Somebody is hearing me here. It's from there. Okay, so please, I was asking if the Minister for Nigeria or representative of Federal Ministry of Health? Representative here present? Okay, there doesn't seem to be any. If you have any comment, you have any question, please, this is the time for us to take them. Thank you. I want to assume that there's no comment, no question. Okay. If there's no comment, no question, I want to appreciate everyone that has participated in this webinar this afternoon till now. I want to thank EWHC, who made the first presentation, Dr. Rufus Ebegba, Rumba. I also want to thank Jacinta for very insightful presentations you people made. I want to also thank Edel Queen and Ilka, the last speaker that made the book launch. Thank you so much for your participation. So, there's going to be a moment Edel Queen, the host, now, before we close the webinar. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your effective participation. I don't know where to start to thank all those people that made this a wonderful success. First of all, my thanks goes to Eureka Nelson. She was there from the beginning to the end of this session. Eureka passed through sleepless nights. I bothered her with some information, some tasks, even those outside her duty. And whenever you call upon Eureka, Eureka is always there with her best and sincere support and commitment. It is wonderful working with Eureka, and I use this opportunity to recommend Eureka to the global community. If it is possible, please, we may like to have Eureka as the next executive secretary of CBD. She is able, she is capable. She is wonderful, she is kind. May God bless her. I cannot conclude without mentioning the National Biosafety Management Agency of Nigeria. This was the agency that trained and drilled me up to this level. I started from nowhere. But specifically, the Director General of this agency encouraged me and made me to know and realize, and he never tarried. I was supposed to host, this was supposed to be an online meeting, but he insisted that I'll move my team to his office for better service provision, because we have a very unstable network here in Nigeria. I was afraid. And initially, when it was a bit unstable, my heart skipped. But thank God, we were able to overcome. My sincere thanks to all the presenters, whom on a very brief notice were ready to come up with something. Unfortunately, we don't have Jahun Pasese from Gambia. She was bereaved. and we pray for the gentle repose of the aunt. Thank you once more, everybody. I can't exhaust my appreciation, but from my heart of hearts, I say thank you. And I believe that this effort will never be in futility. We all have a target to restore the biodiversity, to partner with nature, to halt the loss of biodiversity, to make the common action, to common action agenda for nature and people a reality. Thank you so much. I am most grateful.
Thank you so much, Edelquin, and thank you everyone for your active participation in this webinar. And with this, we come to the end of the. Oh, okay, somebody is raising hand.
Sorry.
Okay, Eureka. Okay, please go ahead. Eureka, please.
Yes, I know. I just wanted to extend my thank you for Adele. Really great work to organize this webinar. I know how much effort it takes to organize a webinar in these challenging days too. And for the great words, thank you. Very inspiring. I think that the Cartagena Protocol on Biosafety can actually, you know, with these words be implemented much better if we have this spirit, this power that we have, and that we try to engage all of society this time to understand biosafety, and then try to help us all to implement the Cartagena Protocol Biosafety. I think we will go very far, especially in also the region of Africa. I believe there's a lot of work, and we can mobilize and we can support each other. So yes, thank you so much for this initiative.
One more thing I'd like to say. Yeah, is it true? No. Yeah, and I don't know what to say. I know this is a global stage, but then please, at times somehow emotion plays part. I think I am free to also express my gratitude to my family, my immediate family, because I wouldn't have been there today if not from the support from my husband, from my siblings, from my friends. Please, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. On that note, we call it an evening. We have come to the end of this webinar. Thank you so much.